Okay, everyone, shalom. It's November the 8th today, 2021, and we are discussing Parshat Vayetzei. What is becoming very clear in these classes is that the text says one thing, and we are making good guesses at the story that it is concealing. I think we are all getting experience in reading the Torah and learning how to read biblical texts. And as you can see, it's not only the content of the exact text, but the form of the text. It's also the references that the text makes to other texts. And it is the whole uh, freight train of rabbinical, mystical, medieval, and modern commentary that comes along with it, and that is what makes this so enjoyable and so unlimited in the possibilities. And yet, and yet, we all come, as you will see, with a certain agenda, and I have one too, and my agenda really is what's going on. How do we understand the story? And how is the text trying to tell us what the story is? And of course, there is not one single interpretation of that story, but there is something to argue that the story is compelling. So with that, we're going to go straight into not the first story of the Parsha, which is Jacob runs away and he has this dream with the ladder or the elevated platform and the angels going up and down, and that prophecy and his naming of the place Bethel. That's a very, very lovely story, filled with lots of different kinds of interpretations. But it on this round, it doesn't interest me as much as the story that we're going to read now, and that is this story, the are you seeing the screen here? The text? Are you seeing this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, let me just try and get it so that we can all do this. And I'm just going to put myself in the highlight. And when I'm ready for discussion, I'll just unshare and
It's not full screen, Rabbi.
not full screen. Okay, so are you missing a piece of it? Let's take a look.
We're seeing your whole desktop.
How about this?
No, we can
No.
see your whole desktop with all your
All my other
things along the
stuff.
bottom.
Okay, well, I hope I cleared it off. I stopped. Let's try this. All right, so let's try this again. Hang on. Okay. How about that? Good. Okay.
Teoterto.
I'm going to read the text in English first, okay? And then I'm going to take you through my commentaries and questions, etc. I would read it to you in Hebrew, but since I laid it out with the Hebrew on the side, we're going to see how this is. So we're going to follow this in English first, and then I'm going to go basically verse by verse in Hebrew. So it's Jacob resumed his journey and came to the land of the Easterners. There, before his eyes, was a well in the open. 3 flocks of sheep were lying there beside it, for the flocks were watered from that well. The stone on the mouth of the well was large. When all the flocks were gathered there, the stone would be rolled from the mouth of the well, and the sheep watered. Then the stone would be put back in its place on the mouth of the well. Jacob said to them, "My friends, where are you from?" And they said, "We are from Haran." He said to them, "Do you know Lavan, the son of Nahor?" And they said, "Yes, we do." He continued, "Is he well?" They answered, "Yes, he is. And there is his daughter, Rachel, coming with the flock." He said, "It is still broad daylight, too early to round up the animals. Water the flock and take them to pasture." But they said, "We cannot, until all the flocks are rounded up. Then the stone is rolled off the mouth of the well, and we water the sheep." While he was still speaking with them, Rachel came with her father's flock, for she was a shepherdess. And when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of his uncle Laban, and the flock of his uncle Laban, Jacob went up and rolled the stone off the mouth of the well and watered the flock of his uncle Laban. Then Jacob kissed Rachel and broke into tears. Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's kinsman, and he was Rebekah's son. And she ran and told her father. On hearing the news of his sister's son, Jacob, Laban ran to greet him. He embraced him and kissed him and took him into his house. He told Laban all that had happened. And Laban said to him, "You are truly my bone and my flesh." When he had stayed with him a month's time, Laban said to Jacob, "Just because you are a kinsman, should you serve me for nothing? Tell me, what shall your wages be?" Now Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the older one was Leah, and the name of the younger one was Rachel. Leah had weak eyes, Rachel shapely and beautiful. Jacob loved Rachel, so he answered, "I will serve you for 7 years for your younger daughter Rachel." Laban said, "Better that I give her to you than I should give her to an outsider. Stay with me." So Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed to him but a few days because of his love for her. Then Jacob said to Laban, "Give me my wife, for my time is fulfilled, that I might cohabit with her." And Laban gathered all the people of the place and made a feast. When evening came, he took his daughter Leah and brought her to him, and he cohabited with her. Laban had given his maidservant Zilpah to his daughter Leah as her maid. When the morning came, and there was Leah, he said to Laban, "What is this you have done to me? I was in your service for Rachel. Why did you deceive me?" Laban said, "It is not the practice in our place to marry off the younger before the older. Wait until the bridal week of this one is over, and we will give you that one too, provided you serve me another 7 years." Jacob did so. He waited out the bridal week of the one, and then he gave him his daughter Rachel as wife. Laban had given his maidservant Bilhah to his daughter Rachel as her maid, and Jacob cohabited with Rachel also. Indeed, he loved Rachel more than Leah, and he served them another 7 years. Okay, so as I read the story to you, you get a glimpse here of this tremendous drama and a tremendous sense of rivalry and conflict, and there is a whole host of issues that come barreling towards us, not the least of which is, how did he pull this off? I mean, every year we read the story, it just seems to me so uncanny that he would be able to pull this off. And the rabbinic commentaries, earliest to medieval to modern, all try and make their conjectures. He got drunk, he got him very drunk, etc., and he didn't know, and all of that seems to me just excuse giving for what is essentially very, very difficult in the text. And so I'm going to set that real problem aside, because I truly am not sure I can resolve that satisfactorily, at least satisfactorily to me. That is the sense, a way of getting satisfied literarily from this story. It's a puzzle, and it remains so different and so distant from our experience. Certainly because we now are monogamous, and secondly, nobody marries 2 sisters, and this kind of world in which you work for a wife is remote from our experience. So I want to just set aside those questions for a second. I know, Susie, you want to just say what you wrote there?
Okay, yeah, I know somebody who says that Leah and Rachel were twins, although he says he feels they were twins, but he can't prove it. But he has that sense that they were twins.
Okay, so he has that sense. Fine, all right. I'm going to remove your spotlight there. Okay, and all right. So back to me, or back to the text. One other thing that I want to say is, just as we get going, is that the translation while adequate, truly does not capture the essence and the depth of the story. And here, the way to say this in the most positive vein is this is where the Hebrew language is so necessary and important and beautiful. Because reading this story in Hebrew, I think gives us a completely different story. And I'm going to try and show that to you right now and going through it verse by verse. So let's go to the story inside. Okay, here we go. We're back to the beginning. I'm sorry, I'm scrolling fast. Can you all see this? You're okay with that? Okay, all right. So let me just pin myself, and here we go. Okay. Vayisa Yaakov Raglav, Vayelech Arza V'nei Kedem. Jacob resumed his journey and came to the land of the Easterners. So this is, I'm calling this classical biblical storytelling because we get no information here. We have, a three-word phrase, Vayisa Yaakov Raglav, and essentially a three-word phrase, Vayelech Arza V'nei Kedem, if you consider V'nei Kedem to be like one phrase. I mean, I don't want to harp on that too much, but we, everything is collapsed. It's a journey of, 700 miles, 800 miles. It's a big journey. You'll do the Google Maps for me. I didn't do it this round. I think I did it on Abraham coming down. It's a long journey. It's a long time, but no information is given. There are a couple of other things that we know from both the previous and later texts in this story. That one, he doesn't really have anything, which is odd. In next week's Parasha, he says, Kivim makli, I crossed this river with just my staff. I don't have anything. Basically, it's like the immigrant saying, I came to this country with 2 nickels in my pocket, without anything. And that has always given rise to a question as to, well, didn't have a backpack? Did his mother pack him a lunch? Didn't he have a picnic basket? What did he do? When he goes, the previous story, when he, goes to sleep and he sees the angels, he has nothing with him. He has really no food. There is just a flask of oil that he anoints the rock with, which is odd. But we have no details about this because the text, the narrator, and the Torah in general, they're not interested in these details. They're interested in telling in focusing us on what is going to happen. And this is why I call this classical biblical storytelling, because the Torah understands, the authors, the narrator understands, I have limited space in order to tell my story. And so I'm going to tell the important things, and I'm going to leave the rest for your imagination. And I'm going to give you clues so that you can populate it yourself. Okay, so he arrives at the well. Vayar, he saw. Vihine, be'er basadeh. Vihine sham, shlosha edrei tzon, rovtzim alea. Ki min ha'be'er hahi ashku hadarim va'even gdola al pi ha'be'er. I translate it as, he saw, behold, a well in the field. Behold, the three flocks. There are 3 flocks of sheep hovering over it. Because from that well, the flocks were watered, and the stone was great over the mouth of the well. So, in this verse, we have a lot of information. It's like a whole story in a verse. The first piece of information is Vayar. And Vayar conveys to us that Jacob is standing at a distance. He sees it because he is at the distance. He is walking. So the narrator wants to place in our imagination a picture that he has made his journey, and that the journey is ending, and that he knows, he doesn't see a sign, but he's possibly asked people, where's Haran, where's this city, and he's been going on the direction. He doesn't have a map. He's been following a path, and he knows that by seeing a well, it occurs to him that he could be there. And I want to say that every one of us who has gone on a long journey can identify with him. I mean, we now fly, so our my example would be when you fly to Israel, okay, and you watch the map on the screen in front of you on your on the pullback table, okay. But the moment of exhilaration when you fly to Israel is when you see the shore. I don't know anybody who doesn't get excited or exhilarated when they see the characteristic shoreline. And then it's people are saying, look, you can see, right? It's very exciting, and it's an exhilarating moment when you can see it. I don't care how many times you've flown, okay? It's always very, very exciting. To a certain extent, I guess, everyone has that experience. When they fly, they see something from a distance and they go, I recognize the skyline, I recognize something. But here, he doesn't recognize anything. He's never been here, but he knows what a well is, okay? Because everybody in the Near East knows what a well is, okay? And so you can see that the narrator is taking us into his mind, because if everybody knows what a well is, then we know, and he knows also. A well is where you get water, but a well is also where you get information. And a well is where people congregate, and a well is where gossip is exchanged. And if you just have one little pinky toe in biblical stories, you know that great things happen at wells. We already had the experience of Rebecca at the well, so that is what is already kind of fused into our imagination. And we will have wells later on. Moses meets his wife at a well. It's not an accident. These are typologies. It's a typological story. So he's at a distance. He is seeing it as he approaches. And we're playing the scenes out in our minds with a movement as we read it. Vihine, startlingly, surprise, wow, be'er, basateh, in the middle of a field. Vihine, another vihine. It's linked with vihine sham. So it's, behold there, look, what's there? Shlosha edritzon rofsim aleha, which arouses a question in the mind of both Jacob and the reader. Now, we are reading this and we are identifying, we're trying to see it for the first time. And it's odd. It's odd that there are 3 flocks assembled at the well. And we are forced to make a kind of calculation. Wait a minute. What's going on here? What time of the day is it? Why are these people congregating at the well? What's all this about? And so it says, Ki min ha'be'erahi yashku ha'adarim va'even gdola al pi ha'be'er. This is brilliant, brilliant, brilliant storytelling. This is what makes the Torah great, okay? Because we are seeing this as the narrator is telling us, but we're also imagining that we're seeing this through Jacob's eyes. So he looks at it, he sees that he's counted, flock 1, flock 2, flock 3. There's a well here. Doesn't seem that anybody's doing anything. They're waiting. I see a shepherd here, a shepherd here, a shepherd here. I see, I get it. This is the well that all the shepherds come to water their herds. And there's an impediment here. Ha'even gdola al pi ha'be'er. And this, of course, becomes a huge symbol in the life of Jacob. I'm not going to go into that. We in previous classes and sermons, etc., we know that the stone, the idea of a stone, stones are Jacob's kind of signature symbol, okay? So, we've already had a stone in Jacob's life. He's already anointed a stone and made it a monument. So this is the second one that comes up here. Evan gdola al pi ha'be'er. So I'm going to give you my comments here. The narrator creates suspense as we populate the scene. This is deja vu because of Rebecca's story. V'hinei sham shlosha edreitzon. This is interesting. In the Rebecca story, recall, it was close to nightfall. She was coming out to the well in the evening as it was getting dark. It does not appear that there are any others there when Rebecca was at the well, she was basically alone. There was no conflict. The well was open and anyone can draw from it. And it was just like, come as you are, and you can get your water for the night. So my conclusion here is that what's going on here already from this verse, I can conclude based on my information, this is not nighttime. But do we know what time of day it is? And if we discern that it is morning or midday, what are the implications of that in terms of Jacob's travels? So it either means that he was traveling through the night and he could be tired, or he woke up really, 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 really early and already is getting to this place in the midday or sometime. And of course, later on the text will tell us this, but already we know that something is odd because it's the well is locked. So if the well is locked, it means that nobody yet has gotten the ability to drink from it. So already that tells you by deduction, Sherlock Holmes here, that it could be early to midday. Okay, there's a problem. The problem needs a resolution. There's the potential of conflict because there are 3 flocks, which indicates that there is a line of access to the well, and access is perhaps first come, first served. So what you have here is it's like, I'm going to close the share for a second. It's like saying, okay, well, the bank's not open yet, and everyone's coming to get money from the bank, and so we know that the bank opens at 10, so people have lined up already at 9:55, and then the bank opens, someone unlocks the bank and people go in and they go to the tellers and they get their money. Or frankly, any situation where there are hours involved. The question here is, why is the well covered, and why does it seem that there is a restricted access to the well? Okay, I think I get to that in the next verse, or next here. I'm going to come back and share this. Go ahead. Here we go. From that well, how does he know this? This is the narrator taking us into Jacob's mind. Yaakov is assessing the situation and coming to the conclusions based on what he could observe. This is narration, but it's also character development, because what we're seeing is the narrator's telling us, and we are almost watching this play out as Jacob is watching it play out. And as he watches it play out, he is making conclusions. And he's saying, interesting here. We have a well, it's in the field. We have 3 flocks, 3 shepherds. The well is closed. There must be a reason for that. And then he says, the stone is big on the well. It's not that it's a big stone, it's that the stone is big on the well. Okay, so why is it being described as big on the mouth of the well? The same way clothing would be too large on the frame of a person. What does it mean? So I'm offering these following things, and then maybe I'll get you to chime in. Maybe there was no other stone to put on the well. Maybe there have been fights before. They want to keep it so that when it comes time to opening the well, it wouldn't be moved by one person. It would have to be a cooperative effort. Maybe there'd been a tragic outcome of someone falling into the well at night. Why do you cover a well altogether, and what would you conclude? Why is there a larger stone on the well? What do you think this is about? And I'm going to open it up to you and see if you have any kind of comments on this so far. What's going on here in this scene? Anything? Go ahead, Ruth.
Well, part of the reason you would want the stone to be bigger than the well is to prevent evaporation. So there's no,
interesting. Okay.
And also, of course, for security, because there were always fight, the heavier the stone, the better it is, because people were always stealing water and everything. But physics is a lot of it, evaporation.
So you're saying physics, and of course, we obviously don't know how deep the well was, and what evaporation rates are for deep wells versus shallow wells, etc., and what the replenishment rate is. I mean, we have none of that information. We're given a literary piece of information So I'm saying that in addition to the facts, which I think are debatable here based on just our conjecture, we're given a piece of literary information to invite us into other sets of consideration. Ilana, I think you're thinking about this. Go ahead.
Well, this stone is very symbolic in the life of Jacob.
Of course.
The one that that he put under his head. According to the Midrash, it had many pieces, and every piece wanted to be under his head, and then they all got together, all the pieces, and made one stone, and he slept over it. So this stone waited for Jacob to come and to show how strong he is, because he was the only one who lifted it by itself. So maybe it was meant to be.
Okay, as good as an interpretation as any. I mean, it's waiting there to demonstrate his strength. Obviously, it's symbolic, and without getting too carried away into later parts of the story, it's this. Once the stone is removed, everything happens in the story, including all the things that I read. The marriage of the daughters, and I would go one step further with just leaving it unanswered, which is, could the stone represent something that is hovering, that is on Jacob himself? That is to say, could it be a metaphor? Could the stone be a metaphor for that which is impeding Jacob's life? And are there things that impede his life? And therefore, could the removal of the stone be symbolic of the new opening of the gateway to the rest of his life? I'm going to leave that question unanswered because I think that that's it's a great thematic way to frame the story. Okay, for the sake of time, I'm going to move quickly on because there's just too much content here. Okay, so what we can conclude is that all of the above. Okay, there are lots of reasons why the stone is there, including security, including to demonstrate Jacob's strength. I think also, and I'm pushing this, is that something happened here, and you don't get a big stone on a well unless A, somebody fell in it, or B, you are suspicious of everybody stealing more than their share of water. And we know one thing about this neighborhood is that there is a character who will be revealed to us shortly, who is the biggest thief, the biggest rogue, and the most unfair in the whole community. And I think everybody's got this guy's number. Okay, so this tells me, and I know too much later on in the story to read back into it, so it's really not fair. But I'm saying already, if Jacob is wising up, he's saying this is an unusual situation. It's unusual that at 12 o'clock, the banks are still closed. What's going on here? And the reason why the banks are closed at 12 o'clock is because, somebody comes in at 9 o'clock and withdrew the whole bank, okay? And that they left no money. I mean, and that's been our experience. So it's possible that somebody came at 9 o'clock in the morning and took all the water out of the well and left no water to be replenished during the season. So in other words, to establish some kind of fairness to everybody, we're all getting there at the same time. We all agreed to this, and there's rationing basically going on. Okay.
So what, from you saying, maybe something is being hidden.
Yes.
Under there, and nobody's supposed to know what it is.
That's correct.
For the time being.
Well, what's being hidden is there are two things or two sets of things. One is what's going on in this community, and two, what's gonna happen in the rest of the story. So the rock functions literarily as a great device. Okay, verse 3. When all the flax were gathered there, ונאספו שם כל העדרים, וגללו את האבן מעל פי הבאר, והשקו את הצאן, והשיבו את האבן על פי הבאר. So this is the narrator. When all the flocks were gathered there, the stone would be rolled from the mouth of the well, and the sheep watered. So he gets this. Jacob has figured it out. We get some answers. The stone is a protection, and there is an ordered procedure to the watering of the sheep. Someone is in charge, or maybe some group is in charge, or maybe they all cooperate. But if they are all there, why are they waiting to open the well? Are they waiting for a particular time? No clocks in antiquity. A sundial? A shadow? Or are they waiting for a person? Okay? How is this information setting us up for the drama that unfolds? And in fact, we know that the scene is not complete because there are 3 flocks there, but the 4th is coming. And she's coming. We know that she's coming. And they know that she's coming because she always comes after everybody else. It seems that I'm telling the story now because there's a story within the story. And the story within the story is that there's drama at the well. The drama at the well is that they're waiting to open it together, but they're waiting and they're waiting. They're not all there yet. And so one is missing, and the one that's missing, we know, is the woman, the shepherdess, and she's beautiful. We know that later. So here we go. But before we get to the woman coming, we get this exchange. And listen to this exchange and tell me if you don't get it when the characters of the people. Vayomer lahem Yaakov, Achai, me'ayin atem. Vayomru, me'charan anachnu. Right? My brothers, where are you from? They said, Haran. He addresses them as my brothers, Acha, Achi. In modern Hebrew, it's bro. Hey, bro. And it's. I mean, it probably wouldn't be bro in biblical Hebrew, but it's like it's an endearment. It's like, hey man, hey brothers, bro, brothers, where are you? Where are you from? And so he's creating a bond. He's trying to create a bond, and they're basically saying, get the hell out of here. Short, curt. Come on, who are you? You're not from here. Do you know Lavan, son of Achor? Yadanu. Yeah, we know him. Yeah. Get out of here, right? Get the heck out of here. He says, Hashalom lo, right? So is everything okay with him? Is everything all right? Is everything good? Is he well? They said, Shalom. Yeah, he's okay. Now here, it's not clear to me exactly how to translate the next line. Rachel bito ba'a imatzon. Behold, his daughter was coming with the flock. Is this the narrator, or he continued, is he well? They answered, yes, he is. And here is his daughter Rachel coming with the flock. In other words, it seems to me that they're gruff and curt with him on the first 2 exchanges, right? He says, where are you from? Haran. Do you know Nachor? Yeah. Is he well? Yeah. So it seems to me that it's plausible that the answer is a short answer because the first 2 answers have been, where are you from? Haran. Do you know Nachor? Yeah. Is he all right? Yeah. So it seems to me literarily it works as a story, as a storyteller, if the answer is short and that the narrator is telling us, behold, his daughter is coming with the flock. In other words, the narrator is taking our focus away from the exchange and saying, hey, okay, readers and audience now, spotlight on Rachel. Okay, that's how the director, the film is, we're going to cut and show a scene. So it's not them saying it, it's the narrator saying it, and we are cinematically seeing her come. Now, but it's possible that they say she is well, he is well, and here is his daughter. Okay, and if they're saying that, it means that they're inviting him into a relationship because their answer is not so curt anymore. So I think there's a way to 1 second, Marlene. There's a way to understand this. Okay. And of course, I cannot escape the beautiful onomatopoeia here. Rachel bito ba imatzon. Okay, she is coming with the sheep. Rachel bito ba. It's twice in this story you have ba, and of course, anyone who's ever been around sheep knows that that's the sound that sheep make, and that I think is just how clever, how beautiful, and how amazing the biblical storytelling art is. You have to appreciate it from just a sound perspective. Okay, so but I think that there's a way to read this: is Vayomru shalom. They say, yeah, he's fine. And then you have to put, I'm going to put here a pause, okay? We're putting a big gap of time between shalom and, as a matter of fact, Mr. What's your name? You came from who knows where? Here's his daughter coming right now. So there's a pause, and I wanna kind of pretend that there's some time going on in this, and I think that that's a plausible reading, and that to me solves the problem. Let's go on. So, but he says he's puzzled now. Hen od hayom gadol. It's still broad daylight. Lo eteh sefer mikneh. It's too early to round up the animals. Hashkuatzon l'choro. Water the flock, take them to pasture. Wait a second. This doesn't make any sense. When do you gather your sheep? You gather your sheep at the end of the day. Why do you gather the sheep at the end of the day? Because at the end of the day, you want to put them into your pen, your fenced-in area, because you want to prevent theft and you want to prevent predators. You want to protect them. You're not going to let them, be all by themselves at night. So you're going to gather them at night. So it doesn't make sense. You've gathered in the middle of the day, and in the middle of the day, they're going to get hot and they're going to get thirsty. Let them out. So here, Jacob, imagine you're the shepherds, and this outsider is coming in to tell you how to do your business, okay? Right? They must really like him at this point, okay? We now have a timestamp on the story. It's the middle of the day, but evidently it's strange. Why are you gathering the sheep now? You gather the sheep at nightfall to protect. And Jacob is conveying mastery of shepherding. It is strange that you would be gathering so early. It's hot. They're going to suffer. Let them drink and put them out to pasture and then take them in. But they said, we cannot. Lo nuchal. That to me is the key. The key to understanding character here. We are an obedient group of servants, shepherds. We obey the rules here. And the rules have been written to us that nobody gets the water until everybody's here, okay? And then you're forced to ask, why is there a rule? Lo nuchal ad asher yasu kol ha'adarim v'galalu et ha'ever me'al pi ha'be'er v'yishkinu atzad. So it's really strange. So to tip off the reader, something is not right. There have been conflicts. We have a set of rules. And rules arise because of conflicts. What is Jacob's conclusion from this exchange? And why is this the longest thing that they say to him thus far? So if you were Jacob, what are you going to conclude when they say this to him? And what do you think he wants to do here? Okay? And then in the next moment, when he takes the thing off, why is he doing that? Okay? Anybody? I'm going to stop the sharing here and get you to react to any of this. Anybody with me on this? Marlene, or no? Go ahead.
Yes. Why do you assume that they are so gruff and short? Just because they give one-word answers doesn't mean that they are angry with him or they don't want to accept him. They already know he's different because he's wearing different clothes and he's coming without any sheep. So he's not part of what could be an agreement as opposed to some kind of a fight that forced rules to be. Maybe it was a friendly agreement that we all know that we all want water. And so we agree that we'll all do it at the same time. All
right. So good, legitimate questions. I'm only smiling and laughing because, of course, I read the rest of the story. We all know how the story ends. Okay. But I'm also, I'm pushing a narrative here. I'm pushing a narrative that there's a certain typology of man here, okay? That the Bible is giving us a subtle way of contrast between this guy who is a man who has a covenant and these people who are, peasant, normal, gruff people, okay?
Rabbi, does that mean that he's grown up? We saw him as a guy who lives in the tent. And he goes to yeshiva, and he's not very strong.
Forget you ever read that.
Now all of a sudden he's grown up just because he sleeps on rocks.
So you know that he's grown up. Okay, the chronology has made it pretty clear to us that he is we in the last scene, Esav was 40 years old when he married the two daughters of Ishmael. So we know, they're twins. So we are assuming that this is happening when he is, that age. Okay, so yes, he is grown up. Forget the midrash of the Ishmael of the yeshivot for a second. Okay, what we're trying to establish is that there is a qualitative difference implicit, and I'm bringing that that is something that I'm bringing to the story. I'm assuming, notwithstanding the fact that he is conniving and stealthful in his own right, that he is at least more civilized than these men who are hovering at the well. And I'm going to offer the following, interpretation also, because, these guys they're in the habit. They're there every day at this time, and they're waiting, for everybody to be there. And who are they waiting for? They're waiting for the woman, and she happens to be beautiful. And so this brings to mind a certain kind of image. Let me just back to the text here, okay? So it's really strange. We have rules here. Not all the flocks are here. We're waiting, and so are we. We're the readers are waiting to see what happens. Odenu midaber imam v'Rachel ba again minatzon asher lavia kirai. And so now the moment that she arrives is there, and they get to see her. We have been waiting for her. If they are behaving according to the rules, then yes, they're waiting for her, and then they could open the well. But if they're behaving like boors, which is what I'm saying, then they're waiting to get a good look at her because they know that she is beautiful. It's a case of wolf whistling, and that is what I'm going to do with here and show you this little thing here, because I think that this is really clever, and I'm sorry this has a little bit of raciness here, but here we go.
Next, it's ladies' payback time with sweet, innocent Jenny.
This is a building site. It's got builders. Who's that? The kind that like whistling and shouting and passing girls. Decades of abuse. Say hello to my friend Vic.
So yeah, the women passes by the construction workers. They say all sorts of vulgar things, which is why I skipped over that. Okay, and so they're setting them up. Okay, so here.
And Vic has a little secret.
Hold up! That's nice, isn't it? Fuck it, What's she thinking? Summer! Summer, get your tits out! Jesus!
Okay. All right. So do I have to play this out? This is a man disguised as a woman. All right. And this, here it goes. Oh, okay. So that's how. Okay. Never mind. All right. So that's what happens there. That shows you that, these are men who are gaping at a woman. Okay. And he shows them that he's a man, and they all kind of have their comeuppance. Okay. And this is a kind of grotesque illustration, but it's funny in the sense that, well, could it be that they're waiting to see this beautiful woman? She's a beautiful, beautiful woman. Everybody knows that she's beautiful. And they're just like, yeah, we're taking our time here. Yeah, in a few minutes, Rachel's going to come here. And woo, she's like beautiful. And we're going to see her look at the well. And we're going to leave her alone because her father is going to beat the crap out of us if we lay a finger on her. But we'll at least get a good look at her and enjoy that. Marlene, you have your hand up?
Maybe they're each vying for her attention and they each want to marry her.
Also good. You're very charitable to them. Skip.
Rabbi, we have not defined the well.
The well. The well is
the well filled up by a natural stream?
Okay.
Or is it filled up by rain?
So
I can understand why the well is not opened
Okay.
continually.
So all of that gives rise to plausible interpretations here, and it's off my interpretive agenda here. I didn't focus on it, obviously, because I'm focused on the people and the relationships here. I think, as usual, the details really matter, and so I don't have a commitment one way or the other. All I want to say is that it's a well, it's hot, it's the field, they need it, you need the water, and something is around this to create the drama that we are experiencing. Susie, go ahead.
But that's why you ration it.
Okay, good point. Could be a drought. Good point.
The thing is, in the Middle East, you don't have a whole lot of rain, so I wouldn't
Yes.
expect this from rain.
Okay.
And you have Abraham digging wells, which means that
Yes.
they come from groundwater. So I'm assuming this
This
is
is in a different geographical area, and it's in the the Haran area, which is highly watered. Okay, I'm going for the sake of time, I'm just moving faster here. Okay, so when he saw her, the daughter of Uncle Laban, and the flock of his uncle Laban, Jacob went up and rolled the stone off the mouth of the well and watered the flock of his uncle Laban. Okay, the narrator has his focus on the action between Jacob and Rachel. Resolution to our translation dilemma. How does he know it's Rachel? They must have told him, okay? So I'm thinking that, when they have that exchange, there was a pause there. If they told him, they're bonding with him. But where are they now? Where did the shepherds go? They're off the stage. The narrator kicked them out, okay? What is his reaction to seeing her? He knows that it's Rachel. He knows that she's his cousin. He discovered that she's beautiful, and he figures out that that's what they are looking for. They are looking at her beauty. He sees the Tzon Lavan Achimo. He sees Rachel, and he sees the sheep. What is the significance of pointing out the sheep? By pointing out the sheep, she's wealthy. Vayagel et ha'even mipi ha'be'er. What is the significance of this act? Is it more than desire? Is it protection? Is he protecting her? Is it chivalry? Is it gentlemanliness? Is it endearment? Or is he breaking the rule here? I left that off the thing here, but it seems to me that when they said, Lo nuchal, we can't take it off, he's saying, oh yeah, I'll show you. And this is the spirit. This is not iconoclasm, but this is the shattering of rules, the shattering of norms, the shattering of complacency, the saying, and I think we Jews kind of inherit this, right? Who's going to tell me what? I'm going to stand in line? What are you talking? I mean, part of what we see is the caricature of Jewish culture, maybe Israeli culture, but certainly it's like, what are you telling me? I have to wait? I'm going to go to the front of the line, that's it, okay? You're blocking the well. You're waiting for everybody to come? Nah, get out of here. Boom, I can take it off myself. And it's not known to us whether it's that big that one person we normally interpret this as he has colossal strength here. So filled with desire, filled with love, and filled with the kind of testosterone that is flowing in him, like that. But it could be that the rock was there for collective action because everybody was suspicious of everybody else. I'm going on further. I got more things to talk about. Okay, he waters the sheep of Lavan. All right, he's very generous to her. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna. All right, and then then Jacob kissed Rachel and broke into tears. How does he kiss her? He kisses her. We don't know how he kisses her. I have another clip to show. Maybe it's a fun clip. Let me just do that. 2 seconds, okay? All right. This is from a movie called Tel Aviv is Burning. It's a movie. I just saw this last night, and it's on your Netflix. And I'm sorry, just a second. I'll cancel the sharing. Here, I gotta get it queued up properly. Okay, so in this moment, it's funny, it's in Hebrew, but those of you who will, okay, here we go.
Secrétaire, ça, ouais.
This is a kiss. These are two Arab characters playing Israelis, and that's the kiss. Okay? She said, what do you call that a kiss? קורא לזה נשיקה? What's the problem? This is an Arab kiss. Nishika Aravit. Like she's saying, like, this is the way Arabs kiss. Arabs don't really kiss, we Jews, we kiss like in a different way. Okay, so that's that little moment. I had to share that with you. Okay, in other words, a kiss is not just a kiss. Some kisses are kisses, and some kisses are mwah, mwah. And so we really don't know how he kisses her. And don't forget, she's never met him before. This is scandalous in some way. Here is this guy who came from all, he just spent, half an hour watering my sheep. He's got obviously strong, today, this is like a Me Too moment. Okay. This is like, you could say, this is like, who gave him the right to kiss her and to touch her in any way? This is, to a contemporary audience, this is scandalous. Okay. I go on. All right, here we go. So Jacob told Rachel that he was his father's brother, that he was Rebekah's son, and she ran and told her father. He's giving her all this information, and she runs. Why is she running? Well, she's not exactly his brother, it's a relative, and he clarifies that. And she runs. Is it excitement, confusion, fear? She leaves him crying. And Jacob is crying elsewhere in the story, and I just have to highlight that because later on in the story, he will cry when he sees Esau. He will cry when he loses Joseph. He doesn't cry when Rachel dies. It doesn't point that out, although he does set up a monument for her. And I don't want to say that there's estrangement there. It's not that, not that. He doesn't, it's just maybe he's overwhelmed. And he cries, and he doesn't cry when he sees Joseph again at the end of the story. That's absent. He is very stoic. It seems to us that once Joseph is ripped away from him and he cries and cries and cries and he's inconsolable, it seems it's an experience that many, many individuals, many of us go through, which is you're cried out. You don't have anything left. And what will it take for someone to cry after they cried out all their tears? Okay? But here Jacob cries, and he's crying for all sorts of reasons which we can't, each one is plausible. On hearing the news of his sister son Jacob, Laban ran to greet him. He embraced him and kissed him and took him into his house. Sorry. Why does Laban run to greet Jacob? Because he wants to see what's going on here. Okay? Is there anything concealed in this move? I love the commentators are kind of saying he's frisking him. He's saying that he's got nothing on him. He's got no coins. He's got no jewelry. Because the last time someone came, they had 10 camels loaded with merchandise and presents. And Lavan is only interested in one thing. Vayevi'eo bito means that the meeting happened in front of everybody. In other words, I'm putting this meeting in front of everybody, and that it's going to be a public, it's going to be known and gossiped about by all the people around, including the shepherds that were there with their flocks. What exactly did he tell Lavan, Jacob? That he stole the birthright and the blessing? That crafty he was? Why was he escaping? He's got a lot of explaining to do. Why are you here? Well, I'm here because my father said, I need a wife. Well, why do you need a wife and why are you coming now? Well, it's complicated, let me tell you, right? It just so happens that I have a brother, a twin brother, and he shouldn't have been born before me. He shouldn't have been born because he's hairy and he wasn't appropriate. So when he was tired one day, I made a deal with him and I got his birthright. And my mother, your sister, actually put me up to fooling him and I got the blessing. Right? That's why I'm here, because he wants to kill me. Lavan said, you are truly my bone and my flesh. And I love this line. This is an amazing line. This is an amazing line because he's saying, that's me, you're one of the family. You chip off the old block. I guess we can see eye to eye because I see that you have ability to cheat someone else. You're my flesh, and you're my brother. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that the reason for the blocked up well is because everybody knows Lavan. Everybody's got Lavan's number, okay? And they all know, and to keep it fair, and the reason why she's last is because she was always first, and she always got the water. But that's my little story, okay? Stays with him a month. What goes on in that month? We don't know. Did he notice Jacob? What did he notice? What was he told? What took place between Jacob and the sisters? He's staying there. Is he falling deeper and deeper in love with Rachel? What's going on? He's around women for the first time. He's got a mother, but he's never had women in his life. What does he hear? How do they behave? How does he behave? Vayomer Lavan el Yaakov, Achi ata, you're my brother. You're going to serve me for nothing? Tell me what you show. And this is the real the puzzle of the story. It says, because the last time that there was someone, it didn't work for him, but they paid money over, they gave gifts. So if there was grace here, then they would say, here, you're my family. Your father said, marry my daughter. Marry her. We'll make a wedding. I see you love her. You'll marry her, right? Instead, by asking him what your wages are, he knows exactly what he's asking for. He knows exactly what he's doing. You're talking about the guy who knows how to make a deal, Lavan. And Jacob knows how to make a deal. So he sees in Jacob a good shepherd. He sees that Jacob loves Rachel. He sees that, maybe I could take advantage of him some way. He sees that he could present himself as a fair man, even though he's a really deceitful man. Lavan had shtei banot. One bigger and one smaller. Hagdola v'aktana. Okay, why are we getting this information? Jacob knows now that he has two daughters. This is interesting. And then it tells us more. We know already that she's beautiful, even though the text didn't say this. I told you that it is, okay? And I don't know exactly what weak eyes means, okay? But is it something that is praising her or derogatory of her, okay? And I'm sorry, I know that you have a lot of questions, but I got to go. So he loved Rachel. Why? Why am I going to work here for 7 years? This is the only indication that we get as to why he loves her, is that she's beautiful. Does he know anything else about her? Have they had a talk other than the well? Why does he suggest 7 years? Has he figured out the price? Recall, there was no payment for Rebekah other than the gifts the servant gave Bethuel and Lavan. Jacob has nothing to give. Jacob is in a weak position here. Or has he understood something about Lavan? That in the course of 7 years, Jacob can turn a huge profit to Lavan and make himself indispensable. And where is Jacob going to go if it's a shorter period of time? In a year, Esav will still want to kill him, but 7 years is a long time for anger to simmer, or is it? And lastly, is this a ruse? Does he know the rules of the life and that what he wants, he won't get because she is younger? Does he have Lavan's number too? Does he anticipate that Lavan is going to cheat him? Does he want both women as wives? After all, his father had said, "Kum lech padena arama beta betuel avimecha v'kach lecha mishami b'not Lavan." From among the daughters, you should take a wife. Does it mean one daughter or two daughters? Or both daughters? Does he go? Is he supposed to take one wife, or maybe he's going to go above and beyond what Yitzchak told him? And if that's the case, is one wife for generating a family and another for companionship? Okay, I know we have no time, but this theme of one wife for companionship and one wife for procreation is a powerful theme, and it's hovering in here. And the reason why I'm inclined to thinking about that theme, even though it's not substantiated by the text itself, is because there are parallels here for that idea. Even in the case of Chava, Chava is known as the Isha. She is the woman, the companion, but she becomes Em Kol Chai. So she is, in a sense, the ideal woman who is both the companion, and by here I mean the physical, sexual companion, and also the mother. And Ada and Sila in the Midrash, one is for procreation and one is for sexual companionship. Sarah is 90 years old and still beautiful. she might be, and I don't agree with this, but she might be the woman for companionship, for sexual companionship, but Hagar is the one for procreation. Rebecca breaks the idea because she's both. Okay, beautiful. She's both for companionship and also for procreation, except for the fact that generating the family doesn't happen until 20 years into the marriage. And Yaakov will marry Rachel and Leah, possibly because he may intuit that I can have a companion, I can have a procreator. Later on, you have Shimshon. Later on, you have Elkanah, who has two wives, Chana and Pnina. And one clearly is a woman that has no children, and one who has many children. And it could be that he likes her as his sexual companion and not as his procreator. Okay? And Bob, I see you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Just wanted to come back, two comments. One is that with regard to the transformational aspects of the stone, to what degree is Yaakov demonstrating we got to go beyond IQ to EQ, basically social intelligence in terms of dealing with the world, which neither of the other two patriarchs did in the same way that Jacob did. And the other thing that I wanted to comment on is there's another character that I'm wondering if you have any comments on. This is a very sheep-heavy Parasha, as I read someplace. And I was reading about a lot of interesting things about the meaning of the different spotted sheep and their transformational qualities as well. So I'm wondering, the sheep at the well, what role do they play?
So in this presentation here, the sheep are kind of incidental to the character story. I absolutely, we could spend a lot of time, especially since later on in the Parsha, as you correctly mentioned, there's a whole story about how Yaakov develops the flock and creates the flock, especially identifiable flock of speckled and striped sheep. That is really significant. And it's not lost on us that Rachel, the name Rachel is female, is a you. Okay, also. So, but beyond that, I don't know if it adds or any other amplification of the character development here. That's where I'm going. Okay, I don't know if you have a comment on that or you raise your hand after that. But okay, so when he suggests giving, he asks for Rachel in marriage. What is the answer? Tov titi ota lach mititi ota leish acher, which is like, whoa. Better I give you her than I give an outsider. Stay with me. In other words, it's a put down. But the put down is it's understandable given the fact that the characters that we've seen are boors already. The men around there, I'm saying that they're the other shepherds are boorish. Okay, so Jacob served 7 years. And here I'm putting this in a kind of footnote, which is that at Jewish weddings, especially after a long time, it says the rabbis get up and say they waited such a long time to get married. And their love was so great that the years seem like days, except they don't quote the next verse, which is when he says, Hava et ishti, I want my woman. Kimalu yamai va'avoy. It's very crude, right? I want to basically cohabit with her, okay? And so he makes a whole feast. It's a public event. They're going to witness now what's taking place. It's at night, and he gives him Leah. And this, again, we're not going to solve this problem, okay? How he pulls off is a great puzzle. And the morning came, it was Leah. So he said to Lavan, what is this you have done to me? I was in your service for Rachel. Why did you deceive me? How could he have not known? Maybe he wanted her as well. Maybe he wants Lavan to think that he's been cheated in order to marry Rachel too. So he says, it's not the practice, one second, Marlene, in our place to marry off the younger before the elder, hatzira lifnei bechira, as opposed to haktana lifnei gdola. But go ahead, Marlene. Go ahead.
Well, maybe he was sexually not experienced. So how would he know if he was dealing with the one he really loved or the one that he didn't really love? And he is playing out the same wrongdoing and cheating that has happened in his life when he came out holding his brother's heel.
I think all of that is plausible. You've given a defensible interpretation of the story, which is, of course, we want to see this as a mirror story to this. But I think there's on a certain level, it's very satisfying to see that Jacob, who was so deceptive and so immoral with his brother, has been deceived. Okay. But there's another aspect to this, which is in line of the paradigm which I mentioned, which is that, in a situation of co-wives, there is tension in terms of what role do each of the wives play. And as difficult as it is to imagine this, and I think it's hovering here because it's in other stories. It's, as I mentioned, it's in the story of Abraham, it's in the story of Elkanah and Hannah, it's in other stories, and clearly it's in part of the culture where there are many wives competing for the attention of the man. Okay, so the story ends. So I want to just put this now to you because I'm leading up to this interpretation here. And it's in Hebrew also, and I'll try and translate it as we go on. Here we go. Okay, and this is, I watched this Parasha podcast in Hebrew. The woman who's talking here is a teacher of Tanakh in Israel. Her name is Noya Sagiv, and here it is. So her question is, meaning, this guy was smart. He was a smart, crafty business. Did he fall in love and just lose his marbles? What was going on here? Okay, so listen.
זה רכוש אדיר. אז הוא סוחר, ואני לא אגיד נוכל, אבל סוחר הוא בטח.
He's truly a good, crafty salesman.
עוד, אני רוצה לתת דוגמאות לעניין היחסים.
I'm giving you examples of the relationships.
עניין המאוהב, כן?
But the lover.
הוא מאוד מאוד אוהב את רחל.
He really loves Rachel.
אבל הוא גם מגיב לה בצורה קצת מוזרה כשהיא אומרת לו, הבה לי בנים.
But when she says to him, give me children, he responds to her in such a really very strange way. Later on in the story, he's really rude to her.
ועם עין מתה אנוכי, והוא אומר לה, מה, תחת אלוהים אני לביא?
What do you think? I'm under God?
תחת פרי בטן. התגובה שלו היא מאוד 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 מוזרה.
His response is really strange.
כבר יש לו את כמה ילדים שלו.
He's got a few of his own kids.
והוא לא חמוד כמו יצחק.
And he's not sweet like Isaac.
יותר בעבור רבקה. והוא לא סקרן כמו מנוח.
And he's not curious like Manoach.
אבא של
father
שמשון.
Shimshon.
הוא גם מתוק כמו אלקנה.
And he's not sweet like Elkanah is to Hannah and Pnina.
הבעל של חנה, והוא אומר לה, מתוקה שלי, אני טוב לך מ10 בנים.
My sweetheart, am I not good enough to you to like 10 sons?
למה ככה את בוכה?
Why is crying? Why crying?
ואני רוצה לטעון שהוא לא נפל בפח.
I want to say that he didn't fall, he wasn't crazy.
ואני רוצה להציע לכם חשיפה בלעדית.
I'm going to give you exclusive exposure here.
חתרנית.
It's a subversive and very unique, which is what I like about it, but I disagree with it.
שימו לב. אוקיי. אני רוצה להציע שיעקב לא רק שהוא לא נפל בפח, אלא שהוא עשה פה עסקה במודע.
I want to say he didn't fall for it. He made a real crafty deal.
הוא ידע שהוא יקבל את לאה.
He knew he was going to get Leah.
וכרגע היא הנכונה לו.
And now, this moment, she's the right one for him.
שימו לב. רחל היא היפה.
Rachel was the beauty.
היא האהובה וההכרה.
She was the loved one and the barren one.
היא המכוערת.
And Leah was ugly.
צנועה, אבל גם פוריה.
But she was also the productive one, the fecund one, the fertile one.
הפרדה בין שתי פונקציות.
And now we have the tension between the two functions.
אחת היא היפה והאהובה, והשנייה היא הוולדנית או סטנדרטית או אפילו המכוערת.
Okay, one we have the beauty, and one we have the Valdanit, the birther. She's the birther wife. She's there for one purpose only, to pump out children.
ההפרדה הזאת בין הנשים, בין ייצוגי הנשים, קיימת גם בתנ"ך.
This distinction of the two roles of women is already existent in Tanakh.
כלומר, בסיפורים קודמים לנו.
Perfect
בספר
previous stories.
בראשית, האישה
Okay,
תחילה
so
היא
here she's going through the examples. I'm going to go a little bit forward.
אצילה. מדוע היו לו שתי נשים? אז
For
המדרש אומר,
Lemech's daughter, Lemech's wives.
זה היה דרכם של דור המבול, אחת לפריה ורבייה, ואחת לתשמיש.
So this was the custom of the generation of the flood. One was for procreation, and one was for tashmish, which means sex.
כן? אחת מקושטת ככלה, מאכילה מעדנים,
One was all beautied up.
חברתה, זאת של לפריה ורבייה, נזופה ואבלה.
The one that was for fecundity and fertility and procreation was nizufa, which was, it's not flattering.
צילה, כן, היא זאת שהייתה יושבת בצילו, והוא ממש היה משקה את השנייה בכוס עקרים שלא תלד.
So Tzila was the one that was the one that was always drinking from poison potions so that she would never be fertile, but she would always be sexually attractive to him.
יש פה ממש הפרדה שהמדרש עושה בין הישות היפה.
So the Midrash is making a strong distinction between the beauty
הנחשקת לתשמיש לבין הזאת
For sex.
המכוערת לשילה הפריון. המדרש
and the woman that is needed for procreation.
גם על שרה אגב, ובראשית
Sarah
רבה,
also.
מסופר עליה שהיא בגיל 90 היא הייתה מאוד יפה,
When Sarah was 90, she was still beautiful.
והוא חושף את התפיסה שלו על היופי והפריון, איך הם באים אחד על חצי.
And so she's keeping her beauty so that she won't be procreating.
בחשבון השני, כתוב, כל זמן שהאישה מקבלת עוברין, היא מתקערת ומתעזבת.
Sorry, women. Okay, the more pregnancies that you have, the less attractive you get. Putting it nicely.
שכל 90 שנה לא ילדה שרה,
She didn't have a child for 90 years. She still stayed beautiful.
וכך הייתה קלה בתוך חופתה.
And she was still a bride under the chuppah.
אני ידעתי, אני כבר ילדתי שני בנים.
So here she's talking about herself, and this is where it's very cute. She says, I had 2 babies.
זה לא הוסיף לי יופי.
She says, "Hello, Sifli Yofi. I didn't get more beautiful after I had my 2 children."
זה הוסיף לי דברים אחרים, אבל
And so Sifli Dvarim Achirim means I got my other benefits from it. But I said,
זה ממש מדרש קיצוני הדבר הזה.
okay.
אוקיי?
All right. So I'm going to leave it there because that was it's a very interesting perspective on this. I've never really had that perspective until I watched her, and it's like she's saying something very interesting here. She's saying that whenever you have this kind of situation of multiple wives, 2, they do form roles. But, and here's where I would gently disagree with her or engage in the debate. I don't think the text supports this as the reasons in the way that she identifies it. On the contrary, I think the text actually opposes this because the text desperately wants Rachel desperately wants to be the mother. She desperately wants to have the mother role. She doesn't want to be the sexual partner only. She wants to bring children also. And Hannah doesn't want the sexual role. She wants the motherhood role. And so it's interesting that in the saintly Bible stories, you have a world divided where women are function as sexual companions and also procreators. But in the biblical view, that's not the case. The women, for the sense of their wholeness as women, they need to be both companions and mothers. And that's what Rachel becomes. But unfortunately, she has a very difficult pregnancy and she'll die in the pregnancy of her, at the birth of her second child. What Noya Sagiv really goes on to say is that part of the reason why she dies is because she was not able to have children in the first place, and by having by taking the child to term, she endangered herself in the way that many women who are unfortunately in this difficult circumstances find themselves at the crisis point of life and death at the birth, and have to have all sorts of procedures, etc. What I'm saying is that this presents a useful frame within which to see the story, and that the story in itself, at the very least, is conflicting with other archetypes that are existent in other kinds of stories. So we've gone way, way beyond our time, but I know you have some comments about what I just said. So please say anything, if you have anything. Go ahead, Milana.
I think what Noya meant is women who have many children, they have to get up in the middle of the night, they have to take care of them, they have to be very busy with them, and sometimes they don't look so good.
She is absolutely saying that. She said, she said it in all humor and in truth. And she look, the lo sali yofi. It didn't make me beautiful, but it gave me other things. And the point is that it's women and childbearing and bearing a lot of children that's going to do something to your body, and every woman, every man, everybody knows that. Okay. But that's life. That's what life is. Okay. Absolutely. You take that as the price that you pay. But the biblical ideal, and then of course the Judaic ideal is your sexual companionship is built into a marriage also. You don't parcel this out. Of course, it doesn't work that way. It can never work that way. And that's why there's a moral vision here, at least in the conflict of this. Okay. Any other comments here? I know I've gone on a little longer, but it was a very, my proposition here in teaching these stories and doing these stories is that, you think you read the story, you think you know what you're reading. You've read it 100 times, and now on the 101st time you say, oh my God, yeah, of course. There's a whole story behind the story. Just because the economy of the words and the way that the Torah tells it, and I didn't even touch Rashi or the Midrash. I didn't touch that at all. And I have a whole world here. And look at that. Now I'm going to go back and think, okay, so the rivalry exists both between the sisters and between Jacob and the wives, and there's a relationship here, and is this part of what's going on here? And all of that is truly, I think, a great source of interesting discussion. All right. We will leave it there. John, you have a question there.
Just a comment. I think that ambiguity, as we see here, is a sign of great literature.
Absolutely.
In general.
Absolutely. And so that's what, if my question is what makes the Torah great, what you just saw here is part of the reason. The Torah is great because of all of this ambiguity, and because the multiple interpretations we have, and the conversation that we have. As I just presented, she's this intelligent and great teacher, and her thesis is a very important thesis of which we can agree and disagree and debate, and that's what makes this so valuable. All right.